Hi A&Pers, this is Dr. Jones checking in. This is ANP1 lecture test 4 video 2. So we're on page 3 of the note set, which for me starts with a triangle, just like that. So let's switch to our whiteboard, white screen. There we go. And let's draw out our triangle. Where's the eraser? Oh, it took the whole thing. All right, we'll try again. That was painful. All right, we got it. Okay, so first you have the whole muscle. I'm going to put M dot for muscle because I can't stand writing over and over and over and over again. Okay, so the whole muscle is surrounded by which? Epi. Epi means above or upon. It's usually the superficial bit. So we're starting superficial and we're going deep inside the muscle. Epi means above or upon, and what's the root for muscle? Myo. M-Y-O. And then it's I-U-M. S-I-U-M. Forget this. That's a U. Okay. Epimysium. There's not actually a Y, an O in this one, sorry. I'm not erasing it. I'm going with it. I'm going with it. It'll take more time to erase it. Epimysium is the connective tissue covering that surrounds the whole muscle. Now the whole muscle is broken up into groups. Going with blue. Whole muscle is made of groups. So the whole muscle divides into muscle fascicles. F-A-S-C-I-C-L-E, like icicle, but fascicle, with an F-A-S instead of an I. And the muscle fascicle, each muscle fascicle is surrounded by perimysium. Remember, peri, P-E-R-I, means around. M-Y-S-I-U-M. There's an I, right? Yeah. Okay. So perimysium surrounds each and every muscle fascicle. Now, each muscle fascicle you can divide up, divide into individual muscle fibers. What's the other word for a muscle fiber? That's right, each muscle fiber is a muscle cell. They're called fibers because they're super long and super skinny, like threads. That's why they're called muscle fibers. And each muscle fiber is surrounded by and electrically isolated by, which root means within? Endo, endomysium. It's an N. It's a D. Oof. Endomysium. Okay, so endomysium is a connective tissue that surrounds and electrically isolates each and every single muscle fiber / muscle cell in your entire body. Lots of endomysium. Okay. Now I'm conflicted because I don't want to go ahead and tell you the next couple of things, but normally I draw this on the board and we can come back to it. And from experience, once I click off of this whiteboard page, it disappears, doesn't save it, it's just gone. Okay. I will come back to the whiteboard and just draw it again. I probably won't fill in the top half. That's what we'll do. Okay. So those next few bits we will fill in as we get there in the note set. So I do want to say that the paramecium does contain the blood vessels and nerves. Blood vessels and nerves. And this is the neurovascular bundle that we talked about. And there are neurovascular bundles in the paramecium that surrounds each and every muscle fascicle. Okay, so let's talk more about blood vessels. There we go. Yeah, I think we're here. Am I out of the way yet? Okay. All right, so muscles have an extensive vascular network that delivers oxygen and nutrients and carries away wastes. One of those wastes will be carbon dioxide. The skeletal muscles only contract when the CNS tells them to. The CNS is the central nervous system, and there are two parts of the central nervous system. That's the brain and spinal cord. So if the brain or spinal cord tells your arm to move and your finger to flex and extend to scratch your nose, then that's what happens. If your brain and spinal cord don't tell you to do that, it doesn't happen. Okay. So the skeletal muscles only contract when the CNS tells them to. And the nerve fibers are the axons of the neurons. They're the long, skinny parts. We've drawn nerves before, so let's draw a quick, ugly neuron. You've got the soma or body, the nucleus, and then the long, skinny part is the axon, which is also called the nerve fiber. That's what it is. And there are three major differences between a skeletal muscle cell and a typical cell, like we talked about in Chapter 3 for Test 1. First, the size. Skeletal muscles are enormous. Some of them are the length of the muscle they're in. And like the sartorius muscle in your leg, that's enormously long. Like my husband's 6'6", his is even longer. It's crazy. Second, they are multinucleate. So all of these little flax seeds here are nuclei. And they are all peripheral. They're all off the edge of the cell. Most cells, you know, the nucleus is right in the central. Most cells have a single central nucleus. And these have multiple peripheral nuclei. And in one word, lots of nuclei is multinucleate. So that's the one word. It's called a 50-cent word because you have to pay more. On a telegram, you used to have to pay by the word, and a multinucleate is a big word, so you had to pay more. So 50-cent word. And they're multinucleate because the same reason that the osteoclasts were multinucleate, because they make a lot of proteins. And the recipes for making proteins are in the DNA, the genes. And to make proteins from the genes, you make the mRNA, you make a copy that goes out to the ribosome to be read into a protein, the whole transcription translation thing from Chapter 3 in Test 1. And so because the structural part of the muscle cell that allows it to contract is solid protein, like crystalline protein. So cool. Anyway, it's they break down pretty easily because they're crystal proteins. They break down pretty easily, and so they have to be replaced constantly, and so you need lots of nuclei. And also, if you're building muscle, if you're exercising and building muscle, then these nuclei are what are building new muscle proteins for you. So that's how that works. We'll talk more about that. And also the genes for enzymes. And third, they are striated. So these stripes are called striations, S-T-R-I-A-T-I-O-N-S, striations. And that just means stripes. And the stripes are actin and myosin. Actin and myosin. And the actin and myosin together as a group are called myofibrils. And they're arranged in groups called sarcomeres. And it's the arrangement of the sarcomeres that makes the stripes. It's the arrangement of the actin and myosin, the myofilaments, in the sarcomeres that makes the stripes. And we'll talk in great detail about that, but not in this video. Explain why skeletal muscle fibers are multinucleate. I think I already did that. So nuclei have genes. Genes code for enzymes and structural proteins. More genes equals faster protein synthesis. And the myoblasts, here we go, myoblasts, were embryonic muscle cells that fuse together to make the muscle cells. So each myoblast contributes its nucleus. So each of these nuclei are from an individual myoblast cell, and they fuse together to make your muscles. There you go. Have it typed in. All right. So that was video 2, A&P 1, lecture test 4, video 2. It's good to virtually see you here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. The education must go on. Dr. J out.